Hello, we're back again. My name's Mo, that's Big Bobby G. You lot are so lucky to get this show for free. Now, the reason you get the show for free is because we are in partnership with Saily, the eSIM service by our good friends down at NordVPN. Now, I'm sure you all know about Saily by now, but just in case you don't, it's the eSIM service for when you're going abroad, you want to try and get some Wi-Fi, you don't want to have a big phone bill.
No.
Do you know how many places it works in, Rob?
Tell me, Mo.
200 countries. Did you know there was even 200 countries on this planet?
I would have guessed about 210. So actually, maybe there's some that it isn't available in.
Maybe. We'll have to wait
They'll
and see.
get there. They'll get there.
They'll get there. We trust them. Now, if you want to get involved with Saily, all you've got to do is download the Saily app from the App Store, whichever one your phone uses, and then, or maybe you don't have to do that as well. Maybe you can just scan the QR code that's appearing on the screen. Hopefully, Jordan will make me look like a genius while I do the Rafa Benitez. And then when you go to the checkout, put in the TAW, and that will get you 15% off.
How much?
15%. Wow, Betty. Now,
yeah, what?
it's Groundhog Day again. So I'm sure if you were here with us last week, you'd have known that we intended to talk about lots of different things. And then Alexander Isak's story had a big new development. So we had to scrap everything we were going to do and talk about that. Well, guess what? It's happened again. And this time we have heard from the man himself, which... Before we get into all of the minutiae of the details.
Well, I haven't done a statement yet. But I am thinking of a statement. My statement is in the works, Rob.
Well, hopefully your statement's going to be coming over the next 25 minutes, Rob.
Take this as my testament.
This could be your official record. The thing that I thought about when I saw his statement drop yesterday evening during the PFA Awards, which I'm sure Mo Salah was well pleased about, I thought it would have been a bit strange to be someone at the centre of this saga and have everybody have their say about you, about your condition, about your character, about who you are as a human, and to not have any kind of right to reply.
Yeah, and then when he does reply, it's like, oh, I can't believe he's done that. Can't believe he's done that. Wow, he's made... And then all the Newcastle Patch journalists going, oh, it's just made it so much worse. So much worse. There's been... so many column inches describing him in the worst possible terms. Despicable. You know, it's the worst case of like a player performing to get a move. He could have everything about him. He should have handled it better. He could have handled it better. No one has given him. Barely given any consideration to the fact that the boy might have a case, that the boy might feel he was made promises, and all his statement does is suggest that that's exactly what he thinks. He thinks there were indications that he gave to the club in good time and in good faith, and that they more or less considered as well, whilst withdrawing a contract offer, that he would be allowed to leave at some point. He feels promises have been reneged on.
Yeah.
Now, considering all the narrative hasn't come from his side thus far, or 95% of it hasn't come from his side, he's within his rights to say something. I also think people have studiously ignored why he said it and the timing of saying it. He's saying it because he's nominated in the PFA Awards, and he's expected to be at the PFA Awards. His beef is not with the PFA and his fellow professionals. His beef is with his club, who he thinks have behaved badly around him. His beef is not with his fellow professionals. So he wanted to send, in a way, the statement was a sort of, I want to apologise that I can't be there, but please understand it's with good reason. That is what the context of that statement was, which has been ignored, and I think outrageously so.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. And I do also want to point out the fact that he did thank his teammates and everyone at Newcastle United.
Everyone.
Who has supported me along... everyone at Newcastle United who has supported me along the way.
Yeah, everyone in Newcastle brackets.
Not quite everybody, is it?
Yeah.
But I do think that when it comes to the potential reintegration, which I'm sure we'll get onto at some point, that part
I love
is
this, the
possible.
Isak reintegration program. Day one. What the fuck does that look like?
I mean,
take a seat, Alexander.
Oof.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, this might be a bit tricky. But yeah, I think you mentioned the broken promises. I think this is the key part that people have looked at, is that the reality is the promises were made and the club has known my position for a long time. to now act as if these issues are only emerging is misleading. And that's something that people have been saying recently. It's like, why have we waited this long? Why have Liverpool waited this long? Why have they not gone into action earlier? Well, for the most part, it appears as if Liverpool have been trying to take their cue from Newcastle. Now, whether or not this is a strategy planned in combination between Liverpool, Isak and his agent to say, look, you're going to have to tread carefully with Newcastle. We're going to have to wait for them to give the green light before you go in heavy, rather than if you go in too hard, too heavy, they will just back off and clam up, which I've kind of done anyway. I don't know, but it appears to be that Liverpool's strategy has been very much led by whatever Newcastle have done.
Yeah, there's a very important line in. I don't think Liverpool made a statement directly, but they briefed a reaction to the knocking back of their initial £110 million bid. And if memory serves, they said something along the lines of, we don't see the point in coming forth with another bid because, as of yet, because of the nature. Keyword was the nature of the way the initial bid was rebuffed. Now, what does the nature can mean? One or two things. Initially, I thought, did they say it's 150 million or nothing? Get lost Liverpool. Well, I think if it had been 150 million or nothing, get lost Liverpool, Liverpool would have probably done the official walk away at that point and gone, okay, it's too rich for our blood, it's too high a fee, don't think it's worth that. Liverpool formally withdraws interest. And we've seen Liverpool do that before. And that doesn't stop them coming back, but they would, if they wanted to play as hardball as Newcastle were, if that's what happened, they would have done that. But they didn't. Liverpool said they retain an interest in the player. That's what was briefed. It's still being briefed to this day. So what I've subsequently come to realise what Liverpool meant by the nature of the rebuttal of the offer is the thing about Newcastle needing replacements.
Yes.
So what I think Liverpool are doing is, Newcastle said to us, don't even come near us with an offer whilst we haven't got replacements. So Liverpool have gone, cool, we respect that, we won't come near you until you've got somebody, one or two, through the door. And I think that's what Liverpool would say if you could get them to speak publicly on it today. Having said that, we are now, but what, 10 days from the end of the window, barely?
TikTok.
So it's put up or shut up time, really, for the Reds, I would say.
I think so. I think this public statement from Isak was another, as much as we said it was part of his right to reply and the timing around the PFA awards, I do think this was another one of the cards he had in his hand to try and force things along, to try and to make it clear to everybody that Newcastle's assumptions over what his actions will be once it gets to September 1st, if there's no deal happening, aren't accurate, that he appears ready to dig his heels in. Speaking of digging their heels in, Newcastle obviously responded with a statement of their own. And I feel like this one's actually even more interesting than the Isak one, because there's a couple of things here. It's almost like, so, we are clear in response that Alex remains under contract and that no commitment has ever been made by a club official that Alex can leave Newcastle United this summer.
Commitment's a key word, by the way.
Commitment is a very key word. But that, if you are to take it on face value, that appears to be a response to the broken promises line in Alex Isak's statement. Now, what that says is that they are answering specifically that there was no commitment to saying that he could leave this summer. That's not the same as saying no promises have been broken, because it could well be that the promises broken related to the new contract that he didn't get 12 months ago.
Yeah.
Now,
or Newcastle official, what, currently at the club or previously at the club? Because what did Amanda Staveley say to Isak's camp? What did Paul Mitchell say to Isak's camp? Newcastle official, what, present, past, whatever. Also, commitment can mean nobody put anything in writing.
Yes.
It could be somebody might have indicated. Is indicated the same as a commitment?
No legally provable document exists.
Yeah. Words like gentleman's agreement gets bandied around, which is bullshitty. But someone might look, at the end of the day, what's probably played out is they pulled the contract offer because of their PSR considerations. Upset Isak's camp when doing that. Was about a year ago. Isak's camp probably went, well, if that's the case, you've got to do fair by us and let us go in a year's time. But And there were probably conversations back and forth, and Isak's camp probably got the impression that this would be the last season, because that's what they have indicated, that this is the last season. The Newcastle more or less understood that. Newcastle probably nodded along, however that manifested itself, thinking, oh, he says that, but by the end of the season, if we get Champions League football, we can offer him a bit more, and he can play in the Champions League, he'll quieten down. Problem is, he didn't quieten down.
No, he did not. The other thing about this is the idea about Newcastle getting replacement, because the other part of their statement that's really important is that the part about
Conditions.
We must always take into consideration the best interests of Newcastle United, the team and our supporters in all decisions, and we have been clear that the conditions of a sale this summer have not transpired. We do not foresee those conditions being met. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because to most people you would assume that if there are two conditions, and it feels like there are two conditions. Number one would be a sizable offer from the buying club, i.e. Liverpool, whether it's 150 million or close, we don't know, and the ability, as you've said, to get in a replacement. Or two. I suspect two. Now,
so that's the negotiation gap. 1 or 2, 130 or 150. Do you know what I mean? So I think the truth is 130 and 1.
Yes, but here's the thing. When they say we do not foresee these conditions being met, there's only one of those two conditions that they have control over. They have no idea whether Liverpool are going to bid again if they want to. They might have briefed them about it, but they can't say that for any kind of certainty. What they do know is their ability to sign another player. And if they think that we do not foresee those conditions being met, that could mean we don't believe that we're going to be able to sign anyone. So therefore, he's going to have to sit his ass in Newcastle.
I don't believe they don't think they can get Wissa, in all practical terms. I know it's a bit of a stalemate, but it seems like the last knockings of a negotiation. That to me, and it's one of those where somebody's got to blink. Wissa really wants to go.
Yes, he does. He's gone almost as I think I would say
as rogue,
equally as nuclear as Isak. He's taken all reference to Brentford off of his socials and stuff.
And we've seen Brentford have brought a body in now, haven't they? Watra, has he signed yet?
Ouattara, yes.
Sorry, yeah.
I believe he has, yes.
So Brentford are nearer being able to let Wissa go than the Newcastle Isak. So they're likely to get one of those. Well, one of the first one. Well, half of the first one of the conditions. What they'd like is to be able to parade a shiny new name striker in front of their fans. And that condition is unlikely to be met. Unless they want to, this is the problem they've got now, is do they want to compromise and take on a Nico Jackson, for example? Would they be happy with saying to their supporters, at the end of the window we've got Wissa and Eddie Howe, Wissa and Nicholas Jackson, go forth with that? I don't know. I suspect internally they've had Liverpool-like conversations going, what we don't do is buy a player for the sake of it because we're desperate.
Yes, but
there's another side to that. Go on.
So my thing on the whole Wissa thing is that the main reason why I don't think the Wissa will be enough for Newcastle to sanction a sale is the main reason why Liverpool feel like they need another attacker. AFCON. As in Wissa will be going to AFCON.
Right.
So
the idea for the DR Congo.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the idea that he will be enough on his own doesn't wash. So they still need someone else. And the fact...
I mean, we've only got one right winger.
Well, I mean, technically we've still got Keita.
Yeah, okay, guy we didn't start... I mean, they've got Osula or...
Will Osula, yeah. But I would be surprised if they really put NT...
and Anthony Gordon.
I would be very surprised if they felt like that was good enough. Now, the problem is that because the Wissa thing is taking so long, it's making it harder for them to go off and do other deals. And people have been very critical of Newcastle and their transfer dealings and their ability to get players over the line and the way they've gone about things. The issue with Šeško, where they were basically negotiating with the club while Man United were negotiating with the player. We saw who ended up winning that day. But the thing that I always go back to, the very first player who turned them down was Liam Dilap.
Yeah.
Now, Liam Dilap had a release clause.
Yeah.
And Newcastle, allegedly, knew that they were going to need to strike. Well, look, whether they decided they were going to sell Isak or not, Newcastle knew that they were losing Callum Wilson, so they knew that they needed to buy a forward this summer. And there's a guy there who's getting relegated with a relegation release clause. And yes, you could say, well, he knew Maresca from Man City and maybe that relationship was strong. If they'd have gone in there then, like March, April time, said, look, you're going to be our guy. You're going to be the man. Look at how great you could be if you come to this team. We're in the Champions League. At that point, Chelsea still playing Nicholas Jackson. Chelsea was still unlikely to have a space as their main man. And as it turns out, it looks like João Pedro is going to be their main number 9 and Liam Delap's going to be on the bench. So they had the opportunity to go hard for someone there. I look at the current striker climate. Now, Nottingham Forest this week have just signed Arnaud Calamuendo. Now, you know from when we did the transfer show here, I'm very fond of Arnaud Calamuendo. I think he's a very good player. I thought Liverpool, in our game, could have gone for him. He went for £26 million. He scored 15 goals in Ligue 1 last season. Is that not the kind of player that Newcastle could have been buying?
Certainly as a Callum Wilson replacement. I don't know. I feel what we've seen in the last 24 hours with Isak feeling the need to double down on his dissatisfaction, followed by Newcastle, not just a statement, they've briefed the local patch journalists that they were, outraged by Isak's statement, and if anything, it's made them harden their stance. So what's playing out to my mind is growing realisation within Newcastle that they are not going to get better than Wissa. They will get Wissa, I think.
I agree.
And he will be possibly an important player for them, maybe more than they realise at the moment. But it doesn't complete their ideal scenario in terms of replacing Isak. And they know they aren't. Their A-choice striker is not there. They're not going to get Giancarlo Ramos. Is that his name? Giancarlo Ramos. They're not sure on Nico Jackson, and he might prefer Villa anyway. There's a lad at Porto, I think they quite liked.
The Villa Jackson thing's interesting though, because they have already bought Evan Guesson, and they've also got Ollie Watkins.
And there's Ollie Watkins.
Are they going to play with 3? And if not, could Newcastle then go back for Ollie, or are they not going to want to get to 28, 29-year-olds in? And maybe they're looking to get a younger player in. Do you think that might be a late dart for them?
It could be. There was a sense that Ian Doyle for the Echo actually was rather, mischievously and brilliantly, I thought, put forward on the back of the Newcastle statement. Newcastle stipulate that they will sell Isak on certain conditions, which was a nice inversion of the interpretation of it. And you always have to take that a proclamation is usually a negotiating position rather than hard and fast. Newcastle did not say the window is totally shut as far as Alexander Isak is concerned. We will offer him the chance to reintegrate, but there is no chance of a move whatsoever. We will not sanction it for any amount of money, and regardless of any purchases we make whatsoever. They could have said that. You might have thought, why would they not say that? One, because they think Liverpool might come in with a big bid. And the best thing at the end of the day is to take the bloody money and deal with it maybe in the next window. I don't know. I think both statements were able to do with the window nearing its conclusion.
I still think that Newcastle are desperate for someone else to come to the table other than Liverpool, particularly someone from outside of this country, to kind of make it a compromise so they can say, look, we've sold him, we didn't want to sell him, but at least we've not strengthened a rival, so to speak. I think that's something they're really interested in. You mentioned the press there. This is something on the agenda, so we're going to need to dive into it. The reaction from the press to both statements, and generally the reaction to this whole saga has been a fascinating case study. If you were someone who wasn't, or who were more impartial than us, put it this way, and you were, or maybe someone who's not even a football fan, just like a journalism media student, who was kind of using this whole saga as a case study, it'd be fascinating to see the way that each side have maybe had different motives and how those motives have maybe played out in some of the statements you've seen from some people. And obviously Henry Winter made a big statement this morning, which lots of people have latched onto, including your dear self. And it's almost as if the battle between the clubs is not just on a negotiation football money level, but it's also on a PR level as well.
Yeah, and it feels lopsided. I mean, I'm following lots of Newcastle accounts and having occasional exchange with people, some of them quite civil, and hopefully we can keep it that way. There hasn't been much by way of briefing the media from LFC.
No.
People, some of the North East accounts think that Liverpool-controlled journalists are dictating the narrative. I think certain people who are certainly reporting good faith, as far as I can see, like David Ornstein, are just reiterating what they're hearing from the players' camp. The player wants to join Liverpool and no one else, and that's not LFC's fault. That is just, it seems to be a fact of it. Much as that's unpalatable if you're a Newcastle fan, that's just tough. That's not a media bias bringing that about. That's the players' camp expressing a will.
Also, I think we have to remember that for those kind of journalists, the big guys who report on a multitude of different clubs, it's not so much about them favouring Liverpool over Newcastle. It's about them favouring big deals happening. Like big deals
being
happening.
Interested in big deals.
Yeah. That is their currency.
Story.
That is their currency.
Yeah.
So for a big deal like this, of course they're going to want to keep it running. Of course they're going to want to keep this target stretched as long as possible because that's how they make their own currency. So it's not a case of Ornstein or Romano being wanting it to be. Wanting this deal to go through because they're secret Liverpool fans or they're paid by Liverpool. It's because when big transfers happen, they are happy because more people come to them for news and for just in general.
But also there's been an ever-present fact since early pre-season when Isak didn't make himself available for the Celtic pre-season game, Newcastle's pre-season game. The player is not training with his teammates or making himself available to play for his parent club at this point. Therefore, it's a live transfer story. It's not something that journalists are stoking or needing to keep alive, certainly not, as you said, the neutral ones. The more problematic, some of the more problematic reporting, in my opinion, has come from some quarters of the North East, where I think they are taking their information from one party and one set of parties, and that is Newcastle Football Club, and don't seem to be taking anything from Alexander Isak, or at least don't seem to be prepared in the reporting to give much credence to anything his side have to say.
There's been a lot more hardline reporting. There's been a lot more maybe dismissiveness of the other point of view from that end than I've seen from a lot of the Liverpool journalists. I might have not seen the right people, I hold my hand up on that, but from certain people, we're not going to name names, I'm sure you can pretty much guess who we're talking about. A lot of the time they're wading in against Liverpool fans, Liverpool journalists, offering people out, etc., etc. You don't really see that generally in this kind of discourse, which again is kind of surprising to me. But I feel like we have spoken about this guy for a long time and not just this week. So let's kind of wrap it up with the very small matter of the football match that's happening between the two teams on Monday. Lots of people seem to believe that the other side of that game will be when things start moving. I'll ask you if you believe that, but also I'll ask you the question that I asked my good friend Robbo a couple of days ago. Do you think he's going to be at the game?
Isak?
Yeah.
Not a million years. I mean, you might not even want to watch it on telly to hear the chants about him. No, he's not going. I don't know where Isak is at the moment, but I think he'll be outside the county line. I would. He might be somewhere in the Northumberland countryside in a big hotel somewhere. He's going nowhere near Newcastle city centre.
You are going, so like keep an eye out in the way end. Or maybe
just remember, we're all friends, people in Newcastle. I love your city.
Yeah, be cool. Or maybe he won't be there, but maybe his agents might be there. But what about the first point in terms of, do you think that the resolution might be pending after getting through this game?
Well, we debated this long and hard on the award-winning Transfer Gutter show on our subscription service Tour Player yesterday. And there were mixed views. Some people made a case for it gets done before, for whatever reason, then or it's better that it happens afterwards. I sort of see the timing as being a bit irrelevant. There's no chance Isak will play in that game, whether he signs on the dotted line for Liverpool after we finish this show or not. He's just not played any pre-season football. He's not match fit. No one's going to do that. And even in any case, if Newcastle were minded to do a deal with Liverpool today, tomorrow, they would surely go, just a small little clause at the end of the deal. You're not playing that motherfucker against us because he's good, and we don't want to give you any advantage beyond that with which we have to already. So I think it's irrelevant. I think the only reason it's probably, if it's to happen at all, and now my optimism-ometer is in reverse, I'm not that optimistic that happens at all, but if it's to happen at all, the only reason it's more likely next week is it gives Newcastle more time to have got somebody in.
Yes.
And that's a key thing.
Well, I agree with you on that, and I agree with you on the fact that I do believe that we are getting further away from a possibility of it happening in this window than closer. And I think a key part of that is that Newcastle's current stance and their hardline behaviour may well be an actual deterrent to any prospective new players. Now, I wrote an article for This Is Anfield recently where I spoke to a few players, a few coaches, one agent actually, about the situation in a club when one player's head's been turned and what's it like within the group, within the dressing room, all those kind of things. And one thing that somebody told me was that players themselves aren't necessarily watching how the club acts in this situation thinking, well, that might be me one day. But agents are, and managers are, representatives are. They are paying very keen attention to how clubs act when they have a player who they are in conflict with, let's say. And there will be lots of agents of players out there, maybe your Gonzalo Ramoses, maybe even your Nicholas Jacksons, with agents like, nah mate, stay away from there.
Fans don't realise this. Every agent who is negotiating a deal for his client to sign for a club is negligent if he isn't thinking about the exit strategy. Exit strategy will be a key part of his agenda. He may not want to over-focus his client's mind on it. He wants to say, you just concentrate on having a lovely time, bedding into your new club, looking forward to playing with your new teammates. But he would be negligent in his service to his client if he wasn't thinking, how do I get my player to the next level he may want to go to, or a bigger deal further in his career. Newcastle want to sign the next hot 23-year-old striker in the country. They have to be mindful of the fact that if he's a runaway success, he may want to play for bloody Real Madrid or Barcelona or even Liverpool in 4 or 5 years' time. And so Newcastle, I'm going to find they're not going to get any serious business done without some release clauses that the agents feel are realistic from here on in.
I think so. And I mean, obviously most clubs are reluctant to do release clauses, but then you get a situation like this and you think, well, maybe they'd be a lot further down the line if they had one. But anyway, there is it. There is time for us to talk about other things than Alexander Isak and Newcastle. Now, you mentioned Real Madrid. They played last night. Did you happen to see what happened?
I noticed Rodrigo didn't get any minutes.
He did not. Real Madrid won 1-0 for a penalty from Kylian Mbappe. Wasn't a grand performance, but they got over the line.
Who did they play?
Osasuna, at home. And as you said, Rodrigo didn't play any minutes, which for teams who are still maybe interested in him is of note. I think something else that was of note was the way that they played. So lots of talk about how Rodrigo wouldn't fit into the Xabi Alonso system. Lots of talk about if he's going to play 3 at the back and 2 strikers and no wingers, etc., etc. Last night they played 4-3-3. But it was Brahim Diaz who played out on the right wing rather than Rodrigo. And then they brought on the new kid, the Argentinian kid, Mr. Tuanto, when Brahim Diaz came off.
What, the 18-year-old they just bought?
The 18-year-old they just bought.
That's a slap in the face.
That is almost unequivocal to say that
they're pushing him out the door, aren't they?
You aren't in our plans, mate. And
can I just ask, before we just speculate, why? If he's Rodrigo and he's good, why?
I don't know. I mean, are they maybe thinking?
Has he had an injury? Do they know something we don't?
I don't know. I don't think it's injury related. It could be that they just feel like that they don't have room for him in their squad, wage bill related. If you think about the fact that they've got Endrick coming through as well.
Well, money could be it, couldn't it? That's the most logical explanation, isn't it?
I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't on a very good deal and they feel like that they could survive without his wage and maybe get in a decent amount of money for him in the transfer market. Now, obviously, Liverpool have been long linked with him. Arsenal have been linked with him at times. Manchester City have been the closest team linked with him. Now,
I don't think. Do you read Guardiola's comments about his squad size in the last 48 hours?
Well, he's been saying that for a long time.
Well, I know, but he's doubled down on it. He said very much, and I don't think he's bullshitting. He wants to see more outs than ins.
Well, he's already seen a couple. So if you think about Jack Grealish has gone to Everton, Echeverry has recently been loaned out to Bayer Leverkusen. James McAtee has been sold to Nottingham Forest. So there's 3 of the kind of attacking.
They lined up with Oscar Bob, Doku and Haaland at the weekend. They had on the bench
Marmoush and Cherki.
And Foden.
Foden wasn't even in the squad yet, but I think that's just an illness. But he is going to be in the squad.
Is there anybody else who plays in the attacking part of the field?
Did you mention Savinho?
No, I didn't mention Savinho. Right, so there you
go.
go.
That's what I was going to come to.
So where's Rodrigo fit in that without losing 2?
So Rodrigo was linked to Savinho's sale to Spurs. But if you listen to Guardiola, it sounds like he doesn't want to let Savinho go. He's seen the light in as much as he realises that he's actually got a good footballer. They should probably try and keep hold of him. Spurs.
But even if they did, they'd still be quite top heavy. I mean, it depends how you count Foden, right? You'd still be 6 including Foden plus Rodrigo, even if Savinho leaves, wouldn't it? Yeah, that's quite a lot to accommodate.
Now, Spurs obviously wanted Savinho, but they've also been rumoured to be interested in Rodrigo as well. Now, obviously, Spurs were in the Champions League. They gave PSG a decent game. There is optimism around Thomas Frank. Maybe Rodrigo hasn't seen enough English football to think the Spurs might be a decent move.
What we're really moving towards is, would he go to Liverpool if we wanted him?
Yeah.
Well, if we want him is the first big if, right? And I think one of the biggest obstacles to our interests would be his wage demands. Mm-hmm. I don't know, it's hard to know what to believe, but there are reports that his take-home pay in Spain is really quite substantial. And to come to Liverpool would probably have to make him at least close to joint top paid.
When you consider the difference between how taxes are rated in England and Spain as well.
It's not miles difference, I don't think, but it is significant.
It makes
enough.
a difference, yeah.
So, I don't know, would Liverpool pivot if they're missing out on Isak to Rodrigo? Have they been tracking both? We don't know. I mean, it would be one hell of a compensation as far as in terms of the mood around our camp if we pulled Rodrigo off instead of Isak. And also be a good move that wouldn't preclude going back in for Isak in January necessarily or in the summer. So what do you think? Do you think there's any hope in hell of that one?
I feel like if it was going to happen, it would have happened by now. I feel like Liverpool had a period of time where they had a clear run at him and they didn't really appear to make much running. They might have said to him, if this and this and this happens, then we'll come back. But
do you not think there's an element to which they thought, Real Madrid, if we go back to our first theory, Real Madrid are doing this for the money. They are willing sellers, right? It's not like something like Newcastle putting up the shutters, go, we don't need the money. If they believe the Real Madrid needs some dough here, wouldn't you make them sweat, thinking, you know what, we get Rodrigo out of them for 55 plus some add-ons. You know, why shouldn't it be that different to Luis Diaz or 60 plus add-ons? Whereas Madrid, I noticed earlier in the summer there was a lot of agent talk linking them to Rodrigo to everyone. Suddenly it was 100 million euros. Did you notice that?
Yes,
it was creeping up and up. And that might have made Liverpool go, let's just see towards the end of the window.
And then there was obviously the idea of dealing with Real Madrid, considering past history and potential future history.
You're talking about Konate?
I am, yes.
Yeah.
See, I was trying to be subtle there, and you were just like, nope.
Who knows? I mean, some wild things could happen at the end. Liverpool linked again very briefly with Nathan Collins at Brentford. Liverpool could say, tell you what, if you value Konate, let's call it 40 million now, we knock him off the Rodrigo valued at 65, so 25 and Konate is yours, we take Rodrigo, Liverpool go, we'll throw that 25 on Nathan Collins, we go, and Gahey obviously as well. Bit of a refurbishment of the defence, but you never know. Wilder things have happened.
Not many, but wilder things have happened.
That's the wildest west of a transfer window I've seen in my young life.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? Really, all bets are off in terms of Liverpool in this transfer window. Now, obviously, we come to the end of the show, but before we do, if you remember last week, I was talking about how this last section, the Here's the Thing / what grinds my gear section,
Newcastle
doesn't always have to be negative.
No, it does not, Mo.
And but
it helps if it is.
I had a message from a very good friend of mine, Ash, who I'll give a shout out. Hi Ash, I hope you're okay. Telling me that if you wanted to talk about something positive, how about talking about learning disability sports? Because apparently 80% of people with learning disabilities aren't getting enough activity. And there are plenty of opportunities for you out there across the Merseyside area. So if you fall into this category, these are some places you can go to. There's a place called Apollo Active that works out of Knowsley, but they cover all across North and South Liverpool, Huyton, Prescott, lots of places in South Liverpool. They've got a whole range of different sports available for you: cricket, tennis, athletics, basketball, football. There's also the Green Bank Social Club, which has a very similar range of things for anybody of any kind of ability. So they have boccia, which is one of the... It's like football, but it's got the you know, the ones that have got the rattling.
No, I don't, but I'll take your word for it. Sounds good.
It is great. It is great. There are lots of different opportunities for people. If you are one of those people and you're thinking, well, there's not really any sports that's out there for me, go find it. Honestly, they're out there. Now, I say this as someone who's not been that active myself in recent years, who's actually had their arm twisted to go back into sport. Like, I'm going to start playing paddle. Have you played paddle?
I'm paddle curious.
Yes, I am as well. I've been tempted back into the fold by the idea that it looks like a lot of fun. But in general, I would say this to all of you. I mean, it is still technically summertime. The weather should still be sweet. Go out there, enjoy yourself, get outside. Rather than spending all your time online, refreshing pages, waiting to see if there's any new news on a certain Swedish fella going from the northeast to the northwest. Rob, thank you so much for joining me.
Stop it, embarrassing me.
Now, I have to warn you, next week we won't be here because I'm hoping that this fella makes it back out of the northeast alive.
Are we not doing a show next week?
No. Oh. Yeah, news to him, not news to me. But here is not news to you either. So stay tuned, we'll be back soon.